And now we want to look at the matter of the Founders' Day. Founders' Day, August 4, every year, instituted since President Akufo-Addo came to office. Republic Day, which was 1st July, was taken up as a public holiday, only made a commemorative day. 4th August, we understand, is the day that the UGCC was formed. And the president's thinking is that the UGCC was the first nationalist movement that began really the fight for independence. Of course, you know by now that somewhere along the line, Kwame Nkrumah, who was brought in as the General Secretary of the UGCC, broke away from the CPP, and he went ahead to the CPP. He broke away from the CPP, formed the UGCC, formed the CPP, and they went ahead to lead the country to independence on 6 March 1957. Now the question is, who really founded Ghana? Do we take it from when Ghana began, or the country or the people began, and consider the contributions of everybody, which is what it is people say happened on Independence Day? That's what Independence Day is to recognize. Or do we say that one man, Kwame Nkrumah, founded Ghana because he was the one who held the torch to cross the line? The president says in his Founders' Day address that he roundly rejects the notion that Ghana was founded by one man. Let's see what he says, really. He said that he said the president has firmly rejected the notion that Ghana was founded by a single individual. In his 24 Founders' Day address on Saturday, August 3, the president stated his disagreement with claims that Kwame Nkrumah single-handedly founded Ghana. In 2019, Parliament passed a law establishing 4th August as Founders' Day to honor the collective efforts of those who contributed to Ghana's independence struggle, while designating September 21 as Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day. The decision sparked protests from some individuals and groups who believe in Nkrumah's singular role in the country's founding. Let's see excerpts of the president's address.
As we commemorate these historical milestones, we pay tribute to successive generations of Ghanaians who contributed to the attainment of our national independence. It is most appropriate that we have chosen this date to honor their sacrifices, their resilience, and their strong dedication to the ideals of freedom and justice. I speak to you this evening rejecting completely the notion that Ghana was founded by one man. Whilst Kwame Nkrumah's contributions to our independence are undeniable and unassailable, it is important to acknowledge for our self-respect that the struggle for our nation's freedom was a collective effort spanning several generations. The formation of the Aborigines Rights Protection Society, the British West African National Congress, jointly sponsored by Joseph Caister Hayford and Thomas Hatton Mills, the United Gold Coast Convention, the work of countless unsung heroes, and the tenacious spirit of our people all played vital parts in bringing us to freedom and independence. Kwame Nkrumah, with his charismatic visionary leadership, was undoubtedly a major actor in the final lap of our journey to independence. And that is why, despite the several unfortunate things that happened after independence under his watch, Parliament in 2019 decided to memorialize his date of birth as Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day, the only Ghanaian so far to be so honored in our history. His ability to galvanize the masses and articulate a clear vision for a free Ghana inspired many. However, it is essential to recognize that Kwame Nkrumah stood on the shoulders of past leaders.
So that was the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, stating his views about the issue about founders. The context really, I should point out, is that the former president, John Mills, instituted 21st September as the Founders' Day, and the Founders is a singular founder. That is the founder ''S. Of course, around that time, we had a discussion that it would be improper to accord such huge feat to just one person because a lot of people came together to do it. But of course, it remained so, and Nkrumah was seen as the founder of Ghana. And so when Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo came to power, true to its words, he felt that a lot more people should be accorded the title or the recognition of founders rather than a founder. So that's where we are. We don't have a resolution to that. The matter hasn't been settled. Unfortunately, 67 years after independence, we are still arguing over who founded the country. I started with you, Mahama Yariga. That doesn't matter really whether it is a founder or founders. I mean, does it matter really, and where do we draw the line really?
I believe that if you ask a high school student today, he might not think that it really matters in any way. If you ask the trotro driver, I believe he will think that the price of fuel is more important than who actually founded Ghana. So instead of spending so much of public resources trying to define who is the founder of Ghana, I believe that people in office today will do us good if they managed inflation better, manage fuel prices better, manage the price of kinky better, manage the price of bread better, and the cost of transportation better. I think that for many Ghanaians, these are the key things. But at the same time, history is important. The importance of history lies in the fact that, in a way, it actually affects the price of fuel today, price of gari, price of the cost of lorry fare, and the things that we are dealing with. How is it so? Now, the debate about who is the founder or who are the founders, I think is premised on, and if you listen to the president and his speech, he was talking about those who struggled to attain independence. Those who struggled to attain independence. But is the struggle to attain independence the same thing as founding a nation? The struggle to attain independence is the struggle to break the yoke of colonialism, direct colonial rule. That was what the struggle to attain independence was all about. The founding of a nation is a completely different process after you have attained independence. How do you build in the people, one, a national consciousness? How do you integrate the different territories of the nation? How do you develop the nation so that it will actually emerge as a self-thriving nation? So you talk about those who fought for independence. Yes, it couldn't have been Nkrumah alone, except that even there, history favors him above all the others, because those who invited him to come and be the secretary of the UGCC had their approach to attaining the goal, which was independence. He came, had an ideological and a practical disagreement with them in terms of how to attain the independence. Actually got out of their party, went and formed his own movement, and it was his movement that led us to independence. No matter what they had done in the past, ultimately all territories in Africa got free. Maybe we could have gotten free 20 years after that date that we actually got free, using their approach. But his movement was the one that catapulted us to freedom earlier. Okay? So even there, history favors him. Now, after we became independent, what were the things that he, Nkrumah, did to really coalesce and found us as a nation? Now, you know that, for instance, the UGCCP people who later, emerged as the UP party, United Party people, were actually pushing for federalism.
Yeah.
We were pushing for federalism. It's in the history.
Yeah.
Now, Nkrumah was the one who was pushing for a unitary state
Yeah.
and fought them so that Ghana can remain a unitary state, where if the resources were in Ashanti region, you could fetch some of it and give to the people in Upper East who at that time didn't have gold, who didn't have, you know, all year round rain, and who could farm only one season in a year. The same with the Upper West. But the Federalists were pushing for a situation where the various then regions could become like states and kept their resources to themselves when the others really didn't have resources. Nkrumah was one who fought them and insisted on a unitary state in which resources would be shared fairly across all the regions, no matter where the resources were coming from. This is key to actually establishing a united people. When even they tried to tribalize politics, he again passed the Anti-Discrimination Act, which made it an offense to engage in tribal politics.
But that was Nkrumah as leader or president.
Yes, but that's how you found a nation. It's not after you've been announced as president that, you know, it is when you attain independence, the work that you do subsequently, is that okay? That builds a nation. What is a nation? Define a nation.
Yeah, but I get a new dimension you're bringing to the discussion.
Yes.
But I think the discussion really has been the one who helped with the emancipation.
And I'm saying that anybody who is involved in that kind of discussion is ignorant. He doesn't understand what it means to found a nation. I am saying that founding a nation is a much more complex exercise than just we fought for independence. Yes, you fought and attained independence. After that, a nation is formed. Who actually founded the nation is who built it into one nation, and then who built a national consciousness among the people. Today, we say, oh, other countries are experiencing civil wars and strife because they don't have the consciousness of a nation. But the way in Ghana, the reason why we don't fight among ourselves, the reason why we have never experienced a civil war is because we have the consciousness of a nation. And we say, oh, it is because Nkrumah introduced the boarding school concept in which southern children were sent to the north and northern children were brought to the south and they schooled together, they became classmates, they realized that they were the same people and therefore there's no need to have wars being fought between them. And that is why we have never experienced civil war and yet our neighbors are experiencing civil war. Who did that? Nkrumah had that consciousness that I need to mix these people up to grow up together and realize that they are brothers and sisters and there's no need to fight among themselves. That is the process of founding a nation. So I'm saying that for you to sit and simplistically say, oh, and this person was involved in the fight. The veranda boys were involved in the fight. The market women were involved in the fight. Chiefs were involved in the fight. There are people who contributed more than the names that he is mentioning. These people were mentioned simply because they were elite educated and the newspapers mentioned them.
And they were jailed at some point.
So many people were involved.
It would have been interesting to
It's the same way across the world. Look,
for example, Nkrumah, for some reason, was not part of the guys jailed. Yet, he maybe went ahead to attain independence.
Yes.
The discussion would have changed, I'm sure.
It doesn't really matter. For me, I think that, first and foremost, they contributed. Nobody says they didn't contribute. The history recognizes the fact that they formed the first political movement, UGCC, funded it, agitated, but were not radical enough. They themselves recognized that Nkrumah had the potential to do the work. They paid and brought him to do the work under their supervision. But he disagreed with them in terms of how they wanted him to do the work. Because he thought the approach would not achieve the results expected at that time. So he broke away from them, formed his own movement, and achieved the results that they were hoping to achieve through their organization. Now today you are saying that we should argue as founders. Yeah, you participated in the struggle for independence. But I'm saying that no. So far as I'm concerned, my interpretation of history is different. You don't found a nation simply because you participated in fighting for independence. For me, it takes more than that. If today I sit and say, okay, who founded Ghana? And I say it is Nkrumah. I'm talking about founding beyond who fought for independence. Because the question who fought for independence is not the same as who founded Ghana as a nation. Because what is Ghana as a nation? Ghana as a nation is the territory. Don't forget that Togoland wanted to split. Who fought for Togoland not to split and be part of Ghana. Wasn't Nkrumah. During the period between 1952 and 1950.
It was a 1956 plebiscite.
Yes,
plebiscite, yeah.
so 1952 and 1957 when he was prime minister. Okay.
And the coming together of the northern
Yes.
people, the Ashanti and all of that.
And then
form
now the
modern
country
day
is
Ghana.
a multi-ethnic constitution who helped them to build a common national consciousness. I say, Nkrumah, who physically put in place infrastructure that will integrate them. I say, Nkrumah, who really pushed the nation to have a startup? One key thing that you need is energy. Who really envisioned and then had a drive and pushed for Akosombo so that it would, push the nation to have, the capacity to develop. I say, Nkrumah, so if you look at all the parameters that I use to judge who founded the nation, it cannot be any of the names that His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo is mentioning. The only reason why their names are in history is the fact that they started the movement. But to start the movement and to fail as a movement, and for somebody to come and take over the struggle to achieve independence, and after that, work tirelessly against you, because they didn't just fail at, achieving independence, but even after they had failed at achieving independence was achieved, they were part of the forces
Who fought against Nkrumah?
fought against the values that will build a national consciousness. They fought for federalism. He fought them. They fought for Togoland to be separated. He fought them. They tried to do they tried to do tribalistic politics and etc. He fought them. He tried to develop the major infrastructure of the country. They resisted all those things. He fought them. And today we are excited about Akosombo. We are excited about the industrial enclave of Tema. We are excited about the boarding school system. We are excited about all these things. We go back to were things that he tried to do, and they fought him. And then today they say we should not credit him with founding this nation. How is that, realistic? Even from a pure simplistic view of history, what you are advocating just doesn't make sense.
I see.
So I can understand that his grandfathers were involved, and he has access. He's the president now, and thinks that he can rewrite history, but it won't wash. It won't succeed, because everybody understands what really happened.
I see. So let me say that we have been joined also by Dr. John Osai Kwapon, political scientist and a fellow of the Center for Democratic Development. And also Franklin Kujo, like you saw in the first discussion, is still on Zoom. So we'll come to them after I've spoken to Honorable Aban in the studio here. So Honorable Aban, I mean, interesting discussion, interesting perspectives Honorable Ayariga is introducing to the discussion, really. But do you think that we are overplaying the debate? Are we overplaying it? Is it something that we have to settle? And are we overstating the contribution of Nkrumah above everybody else? Or you think that we should put all of them together and recognize them as founders? Where really do you stand on this?
Thank you very much. Let me say, I'm in a very difficult position because I cannot agree with the president.
With the president?
I cannot agree with him.
Okay, I see. That's interesting. Of course, you are used.
Yes, and you know me.
Yes.
I mean, you know my position on this. And for me, I want to go sleep and let my conscience guide me to sleep well. I've always done that. But I agree with the statements that he made, that a lot of people fought for independence. I agree with that. Because in every nation, talk about Lee Kuan Yew and Singapore, it was not him alone. But he has the pride of place for being Lee Kuan Yew and being the leader. You go to South Africa, Steve Biko, Ora Tambo, all those guys, they were there, right? Struggled with Madiba, Nelson Mandela. But
in fact, for the larger part of the struggle, he was in prison.
He was in prison, yes. But he still has the pride of place.
Jomo Kenyatta,
right.
I mean, all of these guys. Yeah.
So you go to Kenya, all those guys. So history itself tells us that when you are doing some of these things, as far as foundation of the nation is concerned,
The president cites the example of America, that they are founding fathers and not one person, Abraham.
America is completely different. Okay, the
George
federal
Washington.
system had already established itself. The 13 states that fought for independence were individual states in themselves, right?
Yeah.
So Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, New York, all those states, those first 13 states, they were there. And so it was the leaders of these 13 states who congregated, I think, in 1789, right? Yeah. With people like Madison and Co. coming out, Jefferson putting together the American Declaration of Independence and all that, right? So, yes, they fought the British, but they came out as separate states who came together. So you could understand that they were the founding fathers, right? Now, from international law point of view, in describing a state, it is a place of a defined territory, right? With a recognized centralized government, okay? With its laws, and of course, with its police system and all that, where people see themselves as belonging to that piece of territory. Let's look at the history of Ghana. We had the Gold Coast Territory. We had Ashanti. We had the Northern Territories. And we had Transvolta Togoland. Right? This whole business of colonialism was in the protectorate. That is, the Gold Coast colony was a protectorate. Those in the coast. Ashanti did not even see themselves as part of Gold Coast. They had to be defeated by the British, right? Of course, with the Ashanti and other collaborators, right? Then we had the Northern Territories. Now, when all these fragmented territories came together with the elite leading the charge, finally, somebody had the torch who crossed the line, or who had the baton who crossed the line. But I must also be quick to add that in the course of history, no government has honored Kwame Nkrumah more than Akufo-Addo's government by instituting the Kwame Nkrumah's Memorial Day. It is only when you are looking at it against that, then probably you may understand where he's coming from. But it wouldn't be out of place if Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day is also the Founders' Day. Because definitely, we cannot run away from the fact that the struggle for independence did not even start with UGCC. Of course, UGCC, because that was a political nationalist movement. It was not like
the Aborigines Right Protection Society and all
which
those
dealt with issue of land. All right? But as for struggle with the whites, for whatever reason, it started not today. Right? So, for us to think that anybody, right, for us to think that anybody who founded a nation did not have a team of lieutenants would be wrong. But obviously, when history is being written, when names are being mentioned, one person would stand the pride of place. He would stand tall.
So what do you make of the August 4th date? You think it's a
the
necessary
August 4th date,
recognition we must make?
Let me make a disclosure here. The August 4th date, no matter how significant it is in our history, because that was the birthday of UGCC, because of the history of Kwame Nkrumah's breakaway and all that, it changed as a national day to be UP's day. We cannot run away from that. And so that, in the minds of people, that's what they think. That, oh, this one is NPP day.
So should it remain?
You see, I think that, if anything at all, that should be a commemorative day of how the struggle for independence started, and not necessarily the Founders' Day.
I see.
Yes. We must agree that it is a significant day. But I believe that 1st July is more significant than 4th August. This is my personal thinking, right? Because in the 1st July, it's a watershed where the struggle was the black man against the white domination. And so for me, the real Jubilee Day, the real Republic Day is 1st July.
I see.
You understand?
But that rather is the commemorative now.
Because whatever republics that we have had was a squabble among ourselves. The real breakaway, complete breakaway from white domination, which is the watershed republic, is the 1st July Republic of 1960. That's my thinking.
I see. You made an important point about international law defining the state sovereignty, defined territory, permanent population, etc.
Yes.
The president, of course, is a lawyer. We respect him as doing so well, etc.
My boss.
Your boss, yes. He ought to know this. So the founding of a state, and the state at the time, I'm not sure had a defined territory as we have it today. It was Nkrumah who put all of that together, 56, etc. We know that.
That's why I was coming from.
Yes. So why do you think that, knowing all of this in his training, he will still insist on bestowing the foundership, if there was a word like that, on all these people? Will you subscribe to the thinking that because his relatives were in the Big Six and the role they played in the UGC, etc., that is why he wants to solidify their place, in
history,
properly, so-called, in history?
I refuse to give an answer. The reason being that, the reason being that I cannot be in the subjective thinking of the president why he wants to do this.
But we can make inferences, can't we?
Good. So inferences are there for people to make.
But you will not make that inference?
I would not.
Okay.
Whether he wants to, because of course sometimes you listen to people like Gabi and they will say, oh, when our forefathers were struggling, where were you? Of course we can count the number of Chebi persons in the Big Six. Right?
But are we not even overstating the role of the Big Six?
The Big Six, I think so, because it's like when we are all playing football behind somebody's house, right? The person says, hey, master, boys, you are disturbing me, right? He decides to come out to and he arrests six of us, and then the rest have run away, and then the 6 become the heroes. I don't know whether I've simplified it too much.
I think so.
But I think it drives home the point.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
I think it drives home the point because that is what happened. For me, this thing of 4th August, which is seen in the mind of a lot of people
as a UP
day, is rather becoming polarizing than unifying.
I see.
Because for me, when this bill came to Parliament, I was in Parliament.
You were in Parliament.
Okay. Those of my colleagues on the majority side then, who interacted with me, I did not mince my words. I told them that don't you think that this thing we are doing, so long as it is not going to get broad acceptance by Ghanaians, we are doing some kind of a disservice?
What do you make of the argument that the president, by his conduct and acts, is trying so hard to rewrite history? What do you think about that?
Somebody will say history is the record of the victor.
Okay.
So whoever is recounting history
says it from their viewpoint.
May want to look at it from their viewpoint and highlight areas where they had their strengths. It's just like a lawyer recounting the successes of his cases and keeping quiet over the losses that he made. Right? So for me.
So on the screen now is JB Danquest's funeral, and so just for the context and everything. So
yes. For me, let us start thinking about how we are going to get our people united behind the flag of Ghana.
Very well. So let me come to Dr. Kwapon. Doc, I mean, you are an academic. You see quite a few things. In fact, my boss, Samuel Latamesa, thinks that it's a debate that must be settled, but academia must play a key role in settling that debate.
That debate.
So, what do you think? I mean, Okay, no, so I hear Dr. Capone is gone off. I needed him to do that. So Franklin, I mean, I know you've been talking here and there on this Founders Day, etc., etc. I don't know how much of importance you place on it, but what does a debate do to the national psyche? What does it do to us? Oh, Franklin too is not there. I'm sure my online people will come back in a minute. This is the big issue. We're on 97.3 City FM. This is also Channel One Television. Your messages are welcome via our WhatsApp line 020-444-7033, 020-444-7033, or 0549-986-996. We're looking at the issue of the founder or the founders day for Ghana, who actually founded the country Ghana. So a lot of reactions have been coming. Former President John Dramani Mahama, when he had the opportunity to speak after the president spoke, said that it's not something we should be engaged in, and that when he comes, or if he comes after the next election, should he win, he will relook at it and set the record straight. So let's hear what John Mahama has been saying about this.
One of the things this government wants to do is to rewrite our history. And we shall not allow them to rewrite our history. Because the president said he does not accept that one person can be the founder of a nation. Yes, founding a nation, it takes many people, but there's always that critical one person whose sacrifice and efforts is what finally leads to the attainment of the objective that everybody is working for. Nobody can come and rewrite our history. Indeed, for those of you who don't know it, when the Queen finally agreed to give Ghana independence, the UGCC that Nana Akufo-Addo is fighting to be recognized as founders of Ghana wrote a petition. They sent people to England to tell the Queen, don't grant independence, we are not ready yet. And so today you can't come and rewrite our history. July 1st is our Republic Day. And we also made it our Senior Citizens Day. They've come to take the holiday from July 1st and gone to put it on August 4th, which is the day the UGCC was founded. When we come to office, we'll rectify those things. July 1st will be a holiday again.
So that's John Mahama quite emphatically speaking there. July 1st will be restored as a holiday, just that he didn't see what will happen to August 4. I didn't hear that, at least from this. But obviously not in support of the founders' plural discussion. Interesting. But Honorable Ayariga, there are people who think that had it not been the UGCC, Kwame Nkrumah may never have come to Ghana to do what he did. He may have all the ideas like Padmore and Gavi and Dubois, all of those guys. They could have stayed outside to try to see if they could influence things in Ghana. They may never have come to Ghana. So the role of the UGCC really, really, really is the nucleus, and you can't do away with that. That discussion has come up many times.
No, nobody is disputing.
And so you can't do a founders thing without the people who caused him to come down, to lead a process at some point.
Well, I mean, nobody has tried to write the history without mentioning the fact that it was the UGCC that arranged
and paid him, actually.
Yes,
salary.
so they arranged for Nkrumah to come. They employed him.
Park Grant paid a lot of money.
They employed him as, I think, secretary of the,
secretary,
the party. And what was his task? His task was to use his vast knowledge of anti-colonial struggles that he had participated in, both in America and in the UK, to bring that experience to bear on the work that they were already doing, which is the struggle for independence. Nobody has ever disputed that. But then, at the end of the day, when you are crediting people for a victory in a match, you know, the person who scored the goal, very often, sometimes even the assist is not mentioned. The assist is not mentioned. The person who finally hit the ball and it went in, he is credited with the victory. Oh, and this person scored the goal and then the team won. But would you go back and say, look, they had breakfast this morning and it was a woman who cooked good food.
And the goalkeeper saved the ball.
Is that okay? And the goalkeeper defended and made sure that they were not scored. So let's rather give the credit to the goalkeeper. You know, there are so many people who play a role. And that's what John Dramani Mahama is saying. But then ultimately, one person becomes the star, the rallying point. And in the case of Nkrumah, people are forgetting this. This is a guy who is not just adept when it comes to organization, but that also, he tried to build a philosophy. A philosophy. You know, that is why even at the global level, he is recognized as one of the greatest Africans.
Yeah.
Not just because he led Ghana to independence, but that he built a certain philosophy about the African that, you know, has permeated most African communities, institutions, and organizations. So there are several reasons why Nkrumah, no matter what you do, you know, can easily be credited with being the founder of Ghana as a nation. As for what J.B. Dankwa and all those people did, there's no doubt that they played a role. So for people like that, you name a street after them, or some building after them, or some university or some institution after them, in recognition of their role. But you don't force a national holiday in recognition of those people, because then you are trying very hard to blunt the effort of that one leader that everybody accepts is really the person whose effort majorly, is that okay, led to the achievement of the objective. And nobody is saying that J.B. Dankwa didn't do anything, or, you know, members of the Big Six didn't do anything, or etc. Like he said, they were arresting people and then they happened to be part of those that they arrested. Yeah, that's it. I mean, beyond that,
but that's too
they were part of
really.
they were part of
because they were the real shakers and
I
movers
know.
of the UGC.
Yes, they were part of the conspiracies to organize the demonstrations and the protests and etc. That's it. But like I said, my view of the founding of a nation is a bit more historical than the point at which independence was attained. My view of the founding of the nation is the actual
goes
brick and
beyond
concrete,
the
you know,
independence
work of building the nation.
Very well.
So that's my view of the matter.
Okay, so Abba, I'll come to you. Franklin is back on the line. Franklin, where should the discussion rest? Like I was saying, my boss says it's a discussion academia should take up and give us some resting place. You know, academia should look at the facts and everything, even though majorly people think that the discussion or the matter is concluded. Nkrumah is the founder of Ghana, and like Ayariga has said this morning, I mean, bringing other perspectives to it in terms of founding the nation, building an identity, etc. Where do you stand on this?
You know, a lot of it is quite hot air. In fact, it's this politics of trying to, I don't know whether to twist historical accounts. I just don't get it. I mean, if I were doing so because I'm going to enhance the livelihoods of people, then probably yes. Look, there's a place in history for many of the people who came before Kwame Nkrumah came. I mean, there must be that recognition. The Aborigines Rights Protection Society, many people, even before the Aborigines Rights Protection Society, there are many people who had never wanted to become slaves, right? To anybody. So all those people who nurtured those thoughts, those feelings, that one day they'll be free, could be counted as part of the morass, if like process of trying to define for a country, a nation. But indeed, politically speaking, if we look at all the events leading to our independence, I mean, between 1951 and 1957, come on, that's the bulk of our history, really, out there. That's where the big major struggle, the constitutional issues were put out together. People contested elections on the basis of trying to found a nation, trying to be independent, and lost. Let's not forget that. I mean, Dankwa lost elections. And to think that he was very vehement on being coy with drinking tea with the British and then all of that for a while. Frankly speaking, and somebody who wanted independence now, of course, I can understand that the methodologies were different. It's good to claim a place, but don't impose it on people. You see, that they're arrogant and they're not that particular piece of history is being railroaded and made to look like it is pristine. The doyen of Goko politics is done this. Wanyeshi, Masa, you were fighting the guy. You were very vehement, writing letters that we posted recently. That Kwame Nkrumah, your Kwame Nkrumah. I mean, very bad language. And you did all of those stuff. I'm not a fan of Kwame Nkrumah, by the way. Look, if you know, I'm a libertarian. If I go back in time and see some of the things he did economically, he bankrupted the country by 1963. I don't bankrupt. So to be frank with you, the two things the two men share is actually the fact that by the time we're leaving office, they have bankrupted their country. In fact, Akufo no more because he had so much money, he had so much goodwill. And he shouldn't be bankrupting us, but he's done that. And pickpocketed our money actually in addition. That's even worse. So I think for me, so that's why I look at this history and I'm asking myself, now this whole thing, what's the basis? So I'm not a big fan of Kwame Nkrumah, by the way, because again, I don't like the type of things he did. People can justify it and say PDA was essential. Who was it that told us this? KB Asante before. Sorry. I regretted.
Yeah.
Dankwa died. No, KB, the Achimotan, the old man.
The old man. Yes. That's KB Asante, yes. The former minister also in Nkrumah's time, yes.
Exactly. He said Kwame Nkrumah regretted until the and he actually did respect Dankwa a whole lot. In fact, he revered him. I think politics have a way of dividing people and all of that, and it was bad. That part of it was bad. I'm saying that JB did something. In fact, he did quite a lot. But this whole idea of pummeling him through and making sure that as if he did more than, and it's quite frankly nauseating. If you look at the history, it doesn't then match. The thing that you contested this guy, wrote the disparaging letters, making sure that the guy was never noticed, and unfortunately he stole the tender, turned the tender away. Look, yes, I don't agree that only one person found it, but if you are looking at, the poll is out there. That was the greatest African, African BBC Time magazine. In spite of the fact that they didn't like him in the West, most people didn't like him in Africa as well. Yeah, but there was a point. You understand? So look, and he never stole a dime. In fact, nobody knows Nkrumah and he left office have virtually nothing. He was not interested in this procurement. Procurement has buried the whole country. Buried corruption is rife everywhere. You think Nkrumah will be happy? I would even be shy to say that we should do Founders Day, cancel July 1st. It doesn't make sense. July 1st was when we became a republic. And to think that should have been the day, the defining day, pay homage to that day, at least. That's when we decided we're no longer going to be under the British. There can be no greater day than July 1st. Unfortunately, we've canceled July 1st. We are celebrating August 4th because it falls on the day that some party was formed, UGCC was formed. And I'm told, the background guy, the whole of Western region or whatever, it's not even properly recognized, right?
No, so but there's an university there now for him. The UMAT is now been named after him, the Power Grant University.
University. But look, don't come and annoy us. People are hungry. Almost 1 million people are gone into poverty. And you are here defending over your dead body, take it and go along with it when you leave office. Because we are tired. People are hungry.
All right, Honorable Aban, of course, JB Dankwa surely, is contributed a lot to our freedoms, etc. In the law, we see him and the role he played in the Ria Koto, etc. But do you think that we are overstating his influence in the independence struggle above Kwame Nkrumah? How do we place him in this whole context?
Okay, so They helped in the struggle, okay? But they did not have the same level of charisma as Kwame Nkrumah displayed in the push for independence, right? When it comes to the development of the law, that's where he stands way, way, way ahead of Kwame Nkrumah.
Nkrumah wasn't a lawyer.
He was not a lawyer. But once you become the president or a leader, you must play by the rules. I know that Kwame Nkrumah made sure that everything he did was backed by some kind of law. Okay? But it did not pass the test of rule of law.
Rule of law.
It was more of rule by law.
Okay, rule by law. Okay.
Right? PDA was unnecessary. Yes.
Even given the circumstances of the time.
It was still unnecessary. Because it became a tool in the hands of the CPP to deal ruthlessly with its perceived political opponents. Right? And this is where law and order, right, became the hallmark for the fight by people like J.B. Dankwa. Riakoto is one example, right? I don't know if you've taken the time to read his arguments.
The arguments, yes. Against Bing's arguments.
Yes. So, to also make sure that even when the country is formed, the people can enjoy that burst of freedom, rule of law. We should not downplay the role of Dankwa in that. Because we could, with the enthusiasm and people propping Kwame Nkrumah on, goading him into unnecessary actions, we could have turned this country also into a police state. We cannot run away from that. But these were people who put the checks on excessive use of political executive power, right? So he has his place in history, but we must acknowledge that if we are dealing with the issue of the founding of Ghana, I think Kwame Nkrumah is too tall, and I would not, be led by partisanship, okay, by reason of my membership of MPP, to just say that, okay, our forebears also fought, so let us have Founders Day. It's not going to affect us in any way. Let us acknowledge history the way it is, right? Give Kwame Nkrumah his pride of place. I would suggest that, if possible, let's rally the people around the flag on July 1, which is the watershed. For me, that's how I see it. That we should not give any kind of respect to the coup d'etats that happened. Because we say, oh, so we had the Second Republic, the Third Republic, we are in the Fourth Republic, as though the Second, Third, and Fourth were the same as the First. The First is a watershed. We're dealing not with ourselves, okay? We're dealing with a foreign domination. And so let's go back to where we had real emancipation from foreign domination. Restore July 1 as a Republic Day, right? Have September 21 as the Founders Day. The
Founders Day. So
Yes.
Mills's original intent should be restored.
Founders Day, so
September
that we
21.
recognize Kwame Nkrumah as the founder, and let's recognize August 4th as a commemorative day where the struggle for independence started.
I mean, the political struggle, nationalist movement.
I'm sure Ghanaians would buy into.
But leaving Kwame Nkrumah's day as a Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day, doesn't this suffice? So that we do away with all these emotions about founders apostrophe and all of that. So that Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Day.
So we recognize him as a person for what he did, okay? But it still doesn't drive home the sentiments of Ghanaians that they attach to his role as the founder. We see him as Kwame Nkrumah's Day, but that day we don't celebrate him as the founder. So that's the difference.
I see. The worry is that maybe, like John Mahama said, NDC comes. He said they will.
So long as it leads to this political football,
So
it means that the
MPP
day, as I've suggested, is becoming polarizing more than unifying.
And that's a major problem.
That's a major problem. And we must get Ghanaians together. You see, all this history, well and good. Going forward, how do I make sure that you live a good life and I live a good life? You live a decent life, I lead a decent life. That you have some proper square meals to eat, and I also have proper square meals to eat. Right?
That should really be the agenda.
Yes, how could you? I mean, I always say this, even to my friends, that I went to the university in the US, and in trying to get by, I decided to do what these menial jobs would do and people do and all that. Somebody is coming to do a menial job and he's coming in infinity. And I asked myself, in Ghana, the chief of security of a very big company, does he even have a motorbike? So let's move our people to a point where everybody is living comfortably. And this history will take care of itself.
How do we depoliticize this whole founder thing? It didn't used to be the case until recently.
I think we did. We introduced it.
As in how?
As bringing forth August. Me, I want to be very blunt.
We as an MPP?
Yes.
Okay. So
if July 1 had stood, right, but we had also courted the consciousness of Ghanaians of the significance of August 4th, for them to have a buy-in, we would have succeeded. And so we needed that education for people to see the significance of it even before instituting it. As of now, a lot of people think that it's an MPP day. I don't know. I may be wrong.
How do you depoliticize it?
By speaking the political truth. Speaking the political truth, which is
Nkrumah
to just
founded.
go back to the fact that, the Republic Day, really marks the watershed when we severed relations with our colonial masters, and to recognize the person who led us to achieve that objective. That's the basic truth. I can understand that our friends in the NPP, and not the entire NPP to tell you the truth, but the MPP group that is anchored on Akufo-Addo's power base, who feel that their fathers and grandfathers are being left out when the history is being written.
Don't take me wrong. I'm very close with them. I just want to.
I know, but you everybody knows you as somebody who speaks his mind. There are many of your colleagues who know that is the truth, but just won't say it because that's what he wants. So you just do what he wants for him, So NDC is clear on this matter. What surprises me is the role of Bawumia in all this, because Bawumia's father was Minister of Nkrumah.
But he got into the UP at some point.
I get the situation. So I'm waiting to see and hear from Bawumia on all these developments.
He has not commented. Let's leave it. He has not commented. Let's leave it there.
But these are important national matters. You are seeking to lead the nation, and the history of the nation is in contention. And you are not saying anything because you want to be president under the supervision and support of Akufo-Addo, no matter what he does to your father's history, you are willing to live it.
Don't be political.
Maybe he doesn't see it as important enough. So maybe he doesn't see it as important enough.
Well, I mean, perhaps he doesn't see it as important, but maybe it's just because he's the kind of person who will do anything to get to power, even if it does damage to his own history.
Oh,
so
wow.
that's what I see.
That's unfair.
No,
please.
that's the truth.
Oh, my
that's
friend,
the
that's
truth of the
unfair.
matter. No, that's the truth.
But he doesn't come across as that. He comes across as somebody who really wants to push the Ghana agenda, thinking about the future. It is possible. The future is what matters. I mean, that's how he's seen across.
Then let's stop this discussion. The past doesn't matter. The past doesn't matter. Let's stop the discussion. We'll spend 1 hour discussing this. Now you tell me in the end that it is only the future that matters.
No, that's
I do agree with you that the future matters. But then also the past also matters in the sense that it does inform the future. So for me, you know, like I said, I just haven't heard from him on a matter as important as this. And for me, it is telling that for somebody like him, whose father is a kingpin in the Nkrumah era and is part of that history, and who now works with the UP tradition that became the NPP and is a sitting vice president of that tradition, and then is part of this effort that leads to an effort to dampen the Nkrumah era and to over-project the UP tradition in a way that every Ghanaian who understands the history is protesting. And yet he has nothing to say about it because Akufo-Addo has fostered him as a leader of the NPP and he's a presidential candidate. For me, it's equally important. So how to unify this country? Like I said, John Mahama is clear in his mind that all this is, you know, unacceptable. When the NDC wins, we will revert it to First Republic, Republic Day, 1st July, Republic Day, and then we move on. As for UGCC Day, we can find some other way of celebrating the UGCC, but not to force a national holiday on Ghanaians to remember UGCC.
Very well. Franklin, final words in a few seconds on this matter.
We should be doing is, why don't we just agree that we want to celebrate Prosperity Day? Prosperity Day.
On which day?
Why don't we coalesce around that and say that on that day we do away with friends and family in government, procurement shenanigans, do away with I mean all the things that make this economy sag under the deluge of, you know, what I call top-down politics. It is disheartening. So to be dabbling in these things, and, you know, it worries me because again, it's actually affecting Baumia's chances as well. What whole thing about being fond of some day? Come on, look, Mr. President, please. You yourself said you've checked out. We beg you. You go. With
no, he didn't say. I don't recall President saying he's checked out. He didn't say that.
Oh, no, last year he said that.
No, he said a new leader. The new leader. He said a new leader would deal. The new leader would deal with it. He said a new leader would deal with the issues. He didn't say he had checked out. Frankly.
Okay. What I'm trying to say is that, Charlie, people make wild. The way the things they look, no. This kind day we no one hear about that. That make you forget. We are not interested in this day.
Very well. All right. So that's Franklin Kujo. A few of the messages that have come through. Elvis from Ghana says MPP parliamentarians all this while believed Nkrumah was a founder until Akufo-Addo became president. The name Ghana, flag, national anthem was the sole idea of Dr. Nkrumah. Well, we know people who designed those things though. Also, this one says, please, good morning. And I am Atiemo Abraham Edu from Jomoro, Elubo. And he quotes, I totally reject what the president said, and I challenge him that we have one founder and he should let the past be past. We only know Osajifo, you say. Raymond Akwesi Abuaji from Koforia says, good morning. We the youth refuse to be brainwashed by anyone, not even the president, about the history of our nation. The highly and mostly revered Nkrumah is our great founder and national hero. I'm going to vote Mahama to come and put the record straight. Okay. This other one says, good morning to you and your panel. My name is Hudu Yaya from Boku in the Upper East region. I'm vehemently in support of the submission of Honorable Mahama Yariga, of course, who is your MP, because when J.J. Rawlings, Kufuor, Mills, and Mahama were in office, they focused on addressing the issues of the nation rather than trying to rewrite the history. Well, so these are a few of your messages. Keep sending them in on 020-444-7033 or 0549-986-996, and we'll be happy to share them with the rest of the world.